Kalispera. And I apologize for the pronunciation. After that, that session, I think coming to someone like Oracle to follow that is going to sound a little bit more tame, I think. But what I wanted to talk to you about tonight was kind of the opposite end of the IoT spectrum. Not so much the enchanted objects, but how we are trying to cope with all that data and get value out of all that data and information, and what that really means in terms of capabilities, how you actually sort of cope with the volume, with the security, with the privacy. So, the subject matter is digital strategy, and I tend to speak quite quickly when I'm getting interested. So if I do talk too quickly and you can't understand it, please just someone shout out and tell me to slow down. And design patterns. And these are a couple of techniques that we've been developing to help companies understand the sorts of capabilities they need to create and have to be able to make use of Internet of Things, and to understand how to get there, because we're kind of more interested in the more boring aspects of actually helping companies get value out of this, which takes quite a bit of IT capability in the background. Because it's Oracle, we just have to have a disclosure. Not that I'm talking about product tonight, but it just needs to be there. So, I attended an IoT World Forum event in London towards the end of last year. And there was lots of predictions, lots of people saying what was going to happen in this space. And it was all by 2020 there will be. So my personal prediction is that by 2020, there'll be more IoT infographics than connected devices, because it's a bit of fun, but the point is that despite what Dora said, that yes, connected things is quite boring now, it's nothing new. The reality that IoT as an industry, as a way of companies existing and making money, is quite young. And the commercial aspects of it, in terms of standards and connecting devices together, still is in its infancy. So that was, and it is also my personal view that things in themselves, enchanted or not, aren't enough. They don't in themselves do much without being part of a bigger picture. And there's a range of things that we talked about. I think David's video there actually did a great job at saying the range of things, from simple sensors right the way through to vehicles and even buildings, and numbers of buildings, campuses of buildings, are all things that we need to connect to, we need to get information from. And I think that connected things by themselves are of limited value unless they're part of a wider strategy around digital. And what we mean by digital, I'll come to into a minute. But it's about getting that data from these things and actually making real value from it. And that value is kind of different depending on the circumstance. The value from David's things, predominantly in the home, is a lot different to the value that an organization like, well, I won't mention BMW, but a manufacturing organization, by embedding sensors in their factories and making use of that, it's a different value proposition. So it's more than just things, is the point. And in this area, there are some challenges. My things aren't talking properly. That's better. I'll stop using that. So, what do we have? So, when we are looking at organizations, like we're talking to crane manufacturers in the Nordics about how they can have real-time remote sensing in their cranes to start to move away from you purchase a crane to things like Rolls-Royce are doing with their aero engines, is you actually rent them based upon usage. And it's based upon usage by the sensors, so there's predictive maintenance. Cost savings are coming from that way. But in order to do that, the actual ecosystem that you need to actually produce an end-to-end solution is quite extensive. It's not simple, it's more complicated than bog standard old IT. The other thing, I think Dora mentioned this, is that protocols and standards are quite varied, and there's a hell of a lot of work yet to go to do that, and there's lots of organizations that have got some very great technology to allow this sort of self-learning to happen and connecting. And one of the ideas that's coming out now is swarming of objects actually swarming together like insects and animals. Technology is great there, but there isn't the standards to make that interoperable. It's coming, but it needs more work. The other thing with organizations out there, there's lots of consolidation. There's lots of organizations trying to move into this space. An example there of Bosch acquiring Procist. And that's probably their fourth or fifth software company acquisition. And they have something like about 1,200 people that's just focused on building IoT connectivity software. The same is true of GE. They're investing heavily in this area. So there's quite big organizations coming in behind this, but they're focusing in industrial areas that mean that they've got some specific value propositions that are different from the home kind of experience. So that's where we're kind of focusing. And of course, we couldn't not mention security. So this BMW security flaw meant that any BMW from 2010 to 2014 could easily be hacked. And if you look at the errors or the vulnerabilities there that meant that was possible, it's really from an enterprise commercial IT point of view. It's like, why would you do that? Why would you let that happen? You know, so there has to be some kind of rigor about implementing to standards to take into account not just the how nice that object is or what that object does, but the security and privacy around that. There still needs to be the sort of old school rigor around that to make it really work, because that was quite a significant problem for BMW. That the guy that discovered it actually worked with them, so they actually issued fixes for it before it was made public. And also in the UK, Land Rover have had huge problems with similar sorts of things, so much so that in London, then people that buy Range Rovers now, in the last couple of years they fixed it now, have had problems actually even getting insurance for their cars, because so many were being stolen because of similar loopholes. So when we look at what this means in terms of trying to connect, trying to make sense of the data, and trying to actually get value out of this, then some things are changing. So this term of digital, there's Gartner, there's IDC, there's the Open Group who've got views on what that means. But it's basically requiring organizations to think differently and to actually look at different ways of providing services to their employees, to their customers, and to suppliers. What we at Oracle term that is pulling together and these digital forces of social media, of mobile capabilities, cloud computing, big data and analytics, and the Internet of Things. And the way that these kind of elements are brought together vary slightly between industry and use cases, but the challenge is being able to combine all these capabilities together such to provide the experiences and the value that was kind of talked about before. And the way that we approach this is the way it is not looking at technology or products, but looking at the sorts of capabilities and methods that you need to be able to pull this together. And we start that with this concept of, this was actually something that came out of Gartner, which was called pace layering of systems. So in your estate, you have systems that are called systems of record at the bottom that are the things that as an organization you just have to do. You have to run payroll, you have to have finance, you have to have those basic functions. So the idea is to A, run those as cheaply and as efficiently as possible, whether that's on-premise or whether that's cloud. Then to differentiate yourself as an organization, how you do things differently requires a different set of capabilities. It requires a set of capabilities around business process and customer engagement. So how you as an organization may engage with customers, how you may respond to complaints and queries will differentiate you in the market. And then systems of digital innovation, how you respond to take advantage of the new capabilities of the IoT and big data and mobile bring, is a different paradigm of computing and how you approach that to the systems of record. They move at different paces. And what we then do is got this concept of mapping those capabilities onto something that we call a digital business platform, which is identifying those capabilities that you need to be able to provide the systems. And then drilling down, then we can look at some of the more isolated capabilities. Now, the point of this is of trying to talk in terms of capabilities is not to identify technologies and not to identify how you should run them. So the idea of this is that if you, as an organization, need a capability, you can either buy it, you can build it, you can run it in-house, or you can run it in the cloud. That's the different way only way that we're going to cope, or organizations are going to be able to cope with the demands of things like IoT and indeed enchanted objects. One of the things that comes out of that we're starting to develop is this things called design patterns. So fundamentally, the capabilities that are required to do something like IoT is kind of distilled down into that kind of approach. So if an organization is looking at what do we need to be able to do something like this, then this is an approach that we've got to actually identify the capabilities that they're going to need. So, connectivity and integration is going to be a key. How you actually acquire and implement that, it doesn't matter as long as that you know that that's what you need to acquire. So, one of the things that was, so the other thing I haven't talked about was opportunities. So I talked a little bit about the kinds of challenges that we see. When I've been engaging with predominantly cities and public sector organizations, there's an opportunity that is a recurring pattern. And it came up at one organization, and they termed it the concept of a data tank, or secure data tank. So looking at lots of objects, lots of things happening within a city environment, them owning that data and using specialist partners to do things like intelligent traffic, to do things like smart parking, some of the things that were mentioned before. And them getting access to the raw data, and then this concept of a data tank being able to publish using open data the information about the city so that developers and entrepreneurs can come and make use of that data and start to create apps and create revenue streams based around what they're producing. But so it's a way that they are being able to, provide a service to make the city run better, but also providing the chance to monetize in business opportunities for people to come along and do some really interesting stuff and start using that data to drive the things like enchanted objects, those sorts of things that were mentioned before. So this is an example of using that for smart traffic, intelligent traffic systems, of taking in that data, making sure it's secure, integrating, supplying that raw data and publishing open data formats for application opportunities. And we have a design pattern that describes that. Now, that was something that we did that's going on actively in a major European city. But that basic concept of capturing it and organizing and making available the data in the different formats is almost the same in the UK. We've got an organization called the Office of National Statistics that does the growth markets, whether the UK economy is growing or shrinking. It does all the national analytics, and they have organised they are reorganising their whole operation around that kind of pattern. So they're not just saying this is what compute we need, they are actually making organisational change along those lines. That is the same pattern, same capabilities that in Manchester, for example, they're using with diabetes monitoring, using some specific monitors for diabetes that are keeping people at home, that are getting people out of hospital quicker and being managed better. So it's a pattern, it's an opportunity that I think is available in lots and lots of really useful situations, providing lots of opportunities for people to make real use of that data. And with that, I've probably gone over a little bit, but that was it. Thank you very much.